Hello and welcome to the Parenting Tools podcast. My name is Jason.
And my name is Jordan, and this is the podcast where we have a chat about dad life. On today's episode, we are honoured to be joined by none other than Matt Edmondson. Matt, welcome to the Parenting Tools.
It's an honour to be here. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Sweet, I'm so tired. Sweet, I'm so tired. You see me this way. I'm sick and then I'm...
Matt, just for the listener who doesn't know who you are, tell us who you are and what have you got? Not in terms of medical history, family at home, all that type of stuff.
Chronic depression, a lot of anxiety. No, what have I got? So I'm Matt. I struggle to describe what I do. Like, if I get in a taxi and they start chatting and say, "So what do you do, mate?" I'd never really know how to answer it. But I guess my day job is that I do a radio show with my friend Mollie on Radio 1. And then I do other weird and wonderful things outside that. So actually, I do a podcast with Mollie, which we've just launched, called Novel Idea. I run a board games company. I come up with ideas for TV shows. I'm sure there's some stuff I'm missing. I've just written a musical. Random creative endeavours is what I would say. Telepresenter sometimes.
How would you tie that up into a nice, neat little box?
Yeah, I don't know, like general creative man, general creative tinkerer. Probably best known for the radio. And I have two daughters, Ivy, who's 9, and Willow, who is 4.
Amazing.
Oh, mate, so you're well and truly outnumbered.
I'm completely outnumbered. The only other male presence in my house is my dog, Oscar, who in dog years is 98, and so isn't doing much heavy lifting. But you know what? I quite like it. I like being surrounded by female energy. I have friends who have multiple boys, and when I go to their house, the energy it's different, and I think, God, could I survive this? It sometimes is a little chaotic. It doesn't seem to be any kind of rest at all. Whereas my two will be, mesmerised by some paper and pens for like an hour. They can just sit colouring in. Whereas I've never seen one of my friends' children do that ever. The pen would be swallowed, and then you'd be in A&E.
See, I've got one boy and 2 girls, and so I have a little bit of a balance of it. But the teenage years with girls do sort of stress me out a little bit, thinking forward.
Yeah, I hear that, and actually, Ivy's now 9, and there's definitely kind of glimmers of her wanting to be a little bit more grown up. She's sort of got an interest in like, oh, she's going to go to a school disco and wear some eyeshadow. She's sort of asking questions, nothing too bad. A lot of it to do with the law around festivities. I know that kids will listen to this podcast, so I'm not going to say much more than that. But she's cracked that case wide open recently, and that's been an interesting one to deal with. And sort of mood-wise, you get these moments where she doesn't know how to describe how she's feeling, but she's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, or maybe it's tiredness or whatever. But it kind of can come out in I don't know what the word is. It's sort of like she wants to be sort of enveloped and left alone at the same time. So you're trying to work out how to navigate that. I have a sister, and I think she would agree that she was a slightly maybe like emotionally turbulent teenager, and I was the younger brother, and so that's what I've got in my mind of like, okay, that's that might be coming down the tracks. But I really hope, and maybe I'm being too optimistic, and you can come back to me in like 6 years and ask, but I have a real feeling that we're going to be okay. We've got a very good relationship, all of us, and we talk about everything. There's no secrets. There's no kind of like, nothing's off the table in terms of chat. And she will come to me now and like, she'll tell me who her crush is at school and things like that. which I would never have done as a kid to my parents. That would have been the most mortifying thing I could have imagined. But she's pretty chill about it, so I'm hoping, and I try and play it like effortlessly, like, oh great, no biggie, nothing, nothing to worry about. So I'm hoping that it goes well.
Yeah. Have you had the sort of like phone and social media challenges yet at 9, or is that still a bit too early?
No, and I think we're going to try and keep that at bay for as long as we possibly can. I think she's quite a young 9-year-old, and I think Willow, the 4-year-old, keeps her younger. There's a lot of their shared play is imaginative. They're running a vets, or they're being princesses, or whatever it might be, and it's all quite it all still feels quite young. We don't really let her use our phones. Sometimes she says, "Oh, can I text mummy if mummy's away?" And she just likes going through the emojis and selecting ones that she thinks my wife will like. But the rest of the time, they don't have an iPad. They don't have. I don't think they know that YouTube exists, or if they do, they don't really know what it is. They watch a lot of television. They like Netflix and CBBS. But yeah, the phone thing isn't really there. And I think when the time comes that she maybe needs to be able to contact us, or us to be able to contact her if she is out on her own somewhere with friends, I think we'll go brick phone first. It's like, let's give her the Nokia 3210, and then the smartphone can come considerably later. But it doesn't seem to be something that she's like desperately hankering for, although I imagine that will come. Yeah, and as for social media, I'm really hoping that we're kind of on the precipice of a cultural shift on that with teenagers, and so maybe it'll be like, yeah, no one's doing it, so you don't have to, wade your way through that minefield.
Yeah, because I think it was the other week there was some discussion in the political world, really, around laws of this, and that's encouraging for me. My daughter's only 5, and like we've already had the conversations with me and my wife of we don't want them to have to try and navigate that when they're teenagers. Like that's
nightmare.
That seems absolutely terrifying. But yeah, so I'm encouraged that a lot of the things that I'm seeing online are parents going, I think we're going to try and stay away from this as much as possible.
Yeah, I think a lot of schools are sort of doing that as well. Like the school, primary school that ours go to, they've kind of like put out a thing saying like, we're trying to do a smartphone free childhood. So please don't give your kids smartphones. And I think all the parents are pretty on board with that. So it's good. I mean, it'll be interesting as she gets to kind of like secondary school, how that feels.
So you've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. Is the younger one, Willow, at school yet, or just starting school in September?
No, so she's going to start school in September. She's at nursery, but the nursery's attached to the same primary school that Ivy goes to. So it's ideal because it's one single drop-off and one single pickup, which is basically the dream. So yeah, it's quite good, and it means that we all get to kind of hang out together on the trip there and on the trip back. It's logistically ideal.
Oh, see, we're the opposite. Come September, we're going to have 3 different drop-offs. Now they're all.
What are you doing? Why?
I know. Yeah, they're all fairly close. Like the nursery's around the corner from the school, and the preschool's around the corner from the nursery. But it is 3 different locations for 3 different kids. Yeah,
that is a nightmare.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel guilty for mentioning how easy mine is now.
No, I think that's perfectly justifiable. So, did you learn any lessons? This might sound harsh. Did you learn any lessons with the first one and then adjust for the second? Or was it like you got it so good the first time round, the game plan just stayed the same?
I think we just worried less with the second one. I think you don't really have the capacity or the bandwidth to give them the attention that you gave the first one, and I do sometimes feel bad about that. With Ivy, we would spend like the most indulgent like bath time routines, and we'd read loads of books, and I used to kind of sing. I'd make up songs. She'd be like, "Oh, can I have a song about a cow playing the banjo, and I'd make up a song, and then she'd be like, "Oh, can I have a story about this?" And I'd make up a story. And honestly, the bedtime routine was like an hour of books, songs, stories, all these like weird little things we used to do, and we had the bandwidth for it, and it was like all like a laser. All focus was on her. And then when Willow came along, you're like, well, we've now got to juggle Ivy's bedtime and Willow's bedtime. So it's a kind of divide and conquer thing that's going on. Or maybe it's, oh, we'll try and get them both in the bath at the same time. And it very much has felt like, well, we got to get Willow down now. It's like dunk in the bath, out, towel on, nappy on, get in your pajamas, 2 books. Let's hope it's 2 short ones. Read through them, great. Hug, kiss, light off, night. So yeah, she's not getting the full kind of like creative song and dance routine that Ivy did. But in terms of lessons, I mean, I think just being a bit more chill. I think you know, having not done it before, you've got no clue, have you? You've got no idea what you're doing. So everything feels big. So it's like, you know, they'll get a rash, and you're like, oh my God, we've got to get to A&E. And now it's like you get a rash, you're like, let's see how it is in 2 days. You know, it's got a slightly different energy to it.
Bit of Sudocrem and some Calpol.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, try a heavy dose of Calpol, and if that doesn't fix it, maybe we'll try and get a doctor's appointment.
Are you at the stage with the bedtime routine yet where she notices if you skip pages in the book?
Yeah, she definitely would, and that's mainly because she gets into these patterns of wanting the same book night after night after night, and so she can kind of, you know, if someone walked in, they'd be like, this 4-year-old's a genius. She's reading a book because she knows the words associated with the page. Obviously, she can't read. She's just memorized it because we've done it so many times. So no, I can't necessarily skip pages. What I am quite good at doing, and possibly from having a kind of a career that has involved a lot of voiceover work, I'm really good at talking with clarity, but quickly. So, you know, like the terms and conditions at the end of a advert, I can sort of do that. And I, if you put enough energy into it, it doesn't feel like you're doing it quickly. It feels like you're doing it enthusiastically. But you can shave minutes off a Julia Donaldson by just attacking it at 1.5 speed.
I always thought the terms and conditions were sped up. That's good insight. I
think they are. I think they probably are. I think you are made to say them as quickly as possible, and then I think they later digitally, you know, speed them up. Yeah, it's. I think that is one of the tricks of the trade. I've never been there when they've done the speeding up bit, but I have had to read things fast. So that happens, but I can't skip pages in books now, because she'll know. And also there are sometimes things that happen in the books, and she wants to observe something about them, but it's the same observation every single time. So we've got there's this series of books called Pip and Posy. Nothing happens in Pip and Posy. It's like, you know, someone falls over. That's the entire book. Very simple stories. But she loves pointing out stuff in the background, and we'll get to the page and I know what's coming, which is she's just going to describe what every character is doing. You're like, okay, we've just got to get through this bit. And I do feel bad for you know, wishing those times to go quickly, but there's only so many times you can read the same book and have the same enthusiasm for it.
For us, it was bear hunt. Going on a bear hunt every day.
Yeah.
She knew it. And then if you skip the pages, you go, oh, no,
they go
you've
back.
missed the cave. Oh, dear.
Well, sometimes with the Julia Donaldson ones, there are these kind of repeated rhyming couplets that happen almost every page. It's like, I'm trying to think of one that there's like a Zog, and it's like, and away, something, and into the blue, and away they flew, or something. And it's the same thing every time, just move the story on. I'm like, we can cut it. Let's just cut that. We don't need it. We know that they're going off. Let's just get to the next bit of original action.
I think we're at the stage now where my daughter's like reading and listening to books that I didn't listen to as a kid or didn't read as a kid. So I never read the Narnia books. Feel like I missed out on a childhood thing there.
I never read the books, but there were a couple of
I'm
BBC
hooked.
TV series I watched. Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm amazing.
I watched all the movies and all the shows, but never actually read the books. And now I'm like, oh, I want to read more than we've got time for.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, we with Ivy, I was doing all the Harry Potters.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we got as far as we got to book 5, and we maybe got, I don't know, 6 chapters in or something. So quite a way, and then I can't remember what happened. Maybe we went on holiday and we didn't take it with us, and we just sort of fell out of the routine. And now we're too far from it. I know we're going to have to go back and do those 6 chapters again to bring us back up to speed. It's like, okay, you know, it's a lot, and it moves slow. That was sort of peak Harry Potter. So I think any kind of literary editors were like, we cannot cut anything, so that's why the book's like that big. But there's like a lot you could slice out. Let's just whittle this down, Joe.
We've started listening to them on Alexa as well, like at the same time, so we can read it and then just sends them to sleep. But
That's good.
it helps you skip lots of the book.
Yeah, do you know
that
what? A
is
friend of
good.
mine did that with the audiobook. Yeah, that's a very good idea.
So, Matt, you mentioned your career, and you listed off a lot of things that you could, not fit into a short taxi ride. So you've done CBBC, you've done
Yes.
various Radio 1 shows. You're on the radio every day with Mollie, the board games company. Lots going on.
Yeah,
I've got a few sort of icebreaker questions for that.
please hit me.
The first one is this: you've interviewed some cool people. If someone were to say, "Impress me," give me one name of someone you've interviewed, who would you drop? Who's the big name?
The big name. Ooh, I'd say Hugh Jackman,
Oh,
Yeah.
or maybe Robert De Niro.
They are A-list, aren't they?
They're 2 good ones.
Yeah. They're the A-list. They're right up there.
Yeah, they're great.
Have you got a favourite out of the two with how it went and how they were?
They're sort of. I mean, I definitely do have a favourite. It's Hugh Jackman, but they're but Robert De Niro, I really enjoy. I enjoy them for different reasons. So Hugh Jackman is like the nicest man you've ever met. So I used to do this thing called T4 back in the day, which was like
I remember
T4.
yeah. It was on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and we basically just introduced Friends and The Big Bang Theory and interviewed pop stars. And it was filmed in this shopping centre in West London called the Whiteley Shopping Centre, which was almost certainly a money laundering front, because no one ever went in to this shopping centre. I never saw a single customer in there. It's now been turned into flats, and fair enough, because they had no customers. But on the top floor was this studio where we did T4, and celebrities used to come in, and they'd come with an entourage, and it'd be like, oh, they need to come up through the goods lift or whatever. When Hugh Jackman came in, he arrived on a Brompton bike, one of those folding bikes that he borrowed from a hotel porter. He came on his own. He didn't have anyone with him. He literally followed Google Maps to the Whiteley Shopping Centre, came up via the escalators, walked into the reception and said, "Hello, I'm Hugh Jackman. I'm going to be on T4." And everyone's like, "This is weird." And he came in. He was lovely to everyone. Our floor manager was an Australian guy, and he just got on with him so well immediately, sort of chatting about Aussie life. He went and said hello to absolutely everyone. Came in, was so charming and so delightful. Lovely interview, and then he left on his bike again. And I've met him twice, so that was the first time. And then the second time he came onto the radio, and whether he did or didn't for real, he made it seem like he remembered me, which is an incredible, if real, great. If not, amazing sort of, bit of showmanship. And we did this feature with him called Surprise Karaoke, where I'd rewritten the lyrics me and my producer Chris had rewritten them for a song from Les Mis. And
I remember this.
we'd
I
written
remember
it
and he said,
yeah,
"Who am
about-
I? Am I
Yeah.
actor
About
looking for
Wolverine.
applause or an ex-man with claws?" Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And he did it live. We genuinely gave him the lyrics, and he just did it, and it was amazing. We were all blown away. You know, it's like he's never seen it before, and he's like sight reading these new lyrics, delivered it so well. So he's amazing. Like he's the perfect guest that you want. I've just thought of another great one, Bryan Cranston. Amazing guy, amazing.
Oh.
I love Breaking Bad, and it was. So I now do the show with Mollie, but at the time I was doing the show on my own, and Mollie had kind of come in as the first of was meant to be many guest hosts, and we clicked immediately, and we got on so well. And the last thing we were going to do before she left was interview Bryan Cranston. Now, she'd never seen Breaking Bad, and I was like, oh my God, he's the best actor ever. You cannot understand how good this guy is. And his people, nothing to do with him, his people have been like, we don't want any kind of silly treatments. We don't want to do any games. You know, he's just going to come in. It's just going to be an interview. And we're like, fine, it's Bryan Cranston. But on the day, I had this idea, and I thought, I bet I can sell this to him. And so I wandered past him, sat outside and said, look, you can tell me to do one here. But Mollie, who's on the show, was in a band called the Saturdays. I've told her you're the greatest actor of all time. If we give you headphones and a producer can talk to you, would you pretend that you are a massive fan of the Saturdays? And he was like, I love it. I love it, of course. And so he comes in and he played it so well. He was like, because Mollie was like, I've got to say, Bryan, Matt is a massive fan of yours. I don't want to make it awkward. And I was like, yeah, I love Breaking Bad. I think it's amazing. And he was like, oh, that's great. But, you know, I was looking for an opportunity to say, actually, Mollie, your band, the Saturdays, like, I love you guys. And she's like, what? And then she keeps asking him questions, and our producer can go like, oh yeah, it's Rochelle, or it's, you know, whatever. And he was like, he sang some of their songs and all sorts of stuff. And then we got to do the rug pull of like, he's never heard of the Saturdays. And it was brilliant. But his ability to kind of like see the fun in the idea and then execute it was amazing. If you've got time, I can tell you about Robert De Niro.
Go
who
for it.
was
I've seen a clip of De Niro and the water pressure.
Yes, that was it. Water pressure. So he's notoriously quite challenging as an interviewee. If you need proof of that, I'd go and listen to Off Menu with Ed Gamble and James Acaster.
Yeah.
They interviewed him, and he refused to say what food he'd like. It was quite a difficult listen. They're like, "What's your dream starter?" He's like, "No, I'll eat anything." And so he's notoriously quite hard. I don't think he likes being interviewed, but I had stayed at his hotel in Tribeca in New York for my honeymoon, and it had genuinely the greatest water pressure of any building I've ever been in. You could turn the tap on the bath. It's like a massive roll-top bath, and it filled up in maybe 45 seconds. And I remember just staring at it thinking, how have they done this? And so when I went in to see him, I was like, I know I've only got 4 minutes with you to talk about a movie, but I have to ask you, what the hell is going on with the water pressure in that hotel? And he was just like putty in my hands. He loved it because no one's ever asked him about it before, and he had gone to great lengths to get that water pressure to be, you know, amazing. So we became real good friends off the back of that. And the answer is they've installed special pumps in the basement of the hotel. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love that. And I love that you knew those lyrics from Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I remember because his voice broke on the last note, and I felt really sorry for him listening to it. And then he did it again. He hit the note again, and he just absolutely nailed it. And then I showed like my sister on YouTube, my wife, girlfriend at the time. I was like, "You've got to watch this." I remember it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Really
it.
good.
I'd like to take credit for it, but it's all Hugh Jackman.
Was radio always the goal for you, or was it just something that you sort of fell into?
It was a sort of happy accident. So when I was a kid, I was obsessed with telly, very specifically actually CBBC. That was like my my North Star. Like, that's all I wanted to do. I'd come home from school, put CBBC on, and it gave me a sort of sense of peace. And I never wanted to be like, some people would be like, oh, I want to be a Blue Peter presenter. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do anything that required me to go and actually do things. I wanted the job where you say, oh, here's Tracy Beaker or whatever. I wanted the bit where the people appeared to be doing what I was doing, which was just watching the same shows, mucking about with a puppet, and then, saying, here's another show. In a studio, don't have to go anywhere, lovely. Basically just like professionally watching telly. And for whatever reason, I became completely fixated with it. I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. And particularly live telly, it had such a pull for me. So like Saturday morning kids TV was massive for me. Nothing got in the way of it. I would get up at 7 a.m. and sit waiting for Live and Kicking to come on, and then it would finish at like midday, and I'd have been rotting under a duvet for that entire time. And I loved it. So that was always the goal, and I never imagined doing anything else or anything beyond that. And very fortunately, I ended up getting to do that as a job, which is pretty cool. And so I did that. We had a change of management, and they didn't like me, so they let me go. And then I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? That's all I ever thought I was going to do was be a kids presenter, and I'm 20 now, and I've done it. I started when I was 18. And so I had a bit of time where I was like, I don't know where my life's going to go or what it's going to do. I ran a market stall in Greenwich Market selling trick decks of playing cards, magic tricks.
Right.
And that kind of kept me afloat for a bit. And then I got a job for this website called Holy Moly, and I would go and interview people in a silly way. And off the back of doing that, someone from Radio 1 saw it and was like, oh, we should try this guy out. And they did. And I was pretty bad at radio. And I also thought it would be easy, because I was like, I can do telly. This is the same thing, but there's no camera. Turns out quite different and a lot harder, I think. Or at least it was for me. And so, God bless them, they let me be bad for ages until eventually I settled into it. And now I love it. Like, it's my favourite thing in the world. I'm very fortunate that I get to do it with Mollie. And it doesn't ever really feel like work. It feels like turning up, spending a few hours with your best mate, and then going home again. So, I feel very lucky to be doing it now. But it was never really on my list of things to do.
That's amazing, isn't it?
One of the questions I've always wondered, radio particularly, like how much planning do you have to put into like doing a show? Jordan hates the phrase of pre-planning, but
pre-planning is planning.
Pre-planning is planning. Yeah, pre-planning is where you go, shall we think of a plan? I'll be honest, not a right lot. Back when I started, I think if the me of today could meet the me of when I started, we would hate each other, because I used to be a bundle of anxiety, and I'd be like, I need to know what we're doing. I need to have a plan. I felt I think the imposter syndrome thing, I felt very like a fish out of water, very exposed, like, oh my God, I'm doing this thing. It's almost like being asked to do a ballet show and you've never done ballet. It's like you're going to be a bit nervous. So you're like, all these people have turned up to watch me do a ballet show and I don't know what I'm doing. And it felt like that for a few years with the radio. So I used to be very much like, God, I need to know what's happening. And then as the years have gone on and as I've gotten better at it, I guess a bit like learning to drive a car. Like the first time I had a driving lesson, I was like a bundle of nerves and, it's awful. And, now it's like you don't even think about it. You just get in the car and off you go. It's sort of the same thing with the radio. And what I came to learn, and it's frustrating actually, or it was frustrating, is that the less I plan, the better it is. And so now I don't plan anything. I'm very much like in the moment when it's happening. I don't even really like to discuss what's coming up in the thing we're about to do, which I accept can be challenging sometimes for the people that are trying to produce the show. A producer recently said to me, "Oh, you're the only presenter here that does a secret link," which is where they'll go, "Right, what are we going to do next?" And I go, I got something. And they're like, can you tell us what it is? I'm like, I'd rather not. I'll just do it. Let me just do it when we come to it. And I never think about what I'm going to, or how I'm going to say the thing, ever. So it's just coming out as it's happening. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've trained that muscle enough now that I know how to do it. And it really helps having Mollie there. So yeah, very, very little prep now goes into the show. But I could say it was years of prep. I had years of having to prep to be able to do this, but I feel like that maybe is just an excuse. It's currently just like turn up and have a chit chat. It's fine.
And then when you go from sort of, being, what's the word? When you're not single but you don't have kids, childless. And then you start to have a family.
Free.
Childless.
The word is free.
Free, not single. And then you start to think, well, should we have kids? And, you've got a lot going on career-wise. How did you start to then balance that? Did you start to pull certain things back, or was it just plow on?
So I thought from maybe quite a young age, I was like, I don't want kids. It was like, not for me. Not interested. Like, I've never had that thing where I see a baby and I'm like, oh my God, I must go and hug that baby or hold that baby, which I have with dogs. I'm like, I need to go and see that dog. I always felt quite uncomfortable actually if people were like, oh, do you want to hold the baby? I'm like, no, because maybe it's an anxiety thing, but I was like, what if I drop that baby? I think my mind would go there, and so yeah, I was never like someone who wanted to have kids. And I think if my wife had said, do you know what, I'm not that fussed, I'd have been like, cool, great. And thank God she was fussed, because now on the other side of it I'm like, are you mad, Matt? What were you thinking? It's the greatest thing ever. But you don't know what you don't know, and I think I thought, yeah, it's fine. I don't need that in my life. In terms of work, I've been quite unlucky with the first year of both of my kids' lives, in that they have been, I would say, the two busiest years career-wise of my life. I think a lot of my job is throwing ideas out into the world, hoping that one of them will kind of land and do something. And most of them don't. Most of them just sort of fizzle out. And because of that, I have to throw a lot of things out there. And so normally a lot of things fizzle out, and then maybe like one or two will happen. But occasionally you throw a lot of things out there and they don't fizzle out. And they all start doing things at the same time, and you're like, oh my God, it's like the waiting for a bus adage, but with projects. And so yeah, when we had Ivy, I was meant to be presenting a live TV show, and I was due to go on air 2 hours beforehand. I was doing a show called The Extra Factor, which was like the spin-off show of The X Factor, and got a call from my wife, and she said, I'm in labour, I'm at home, I need you to come back right now. So I just had to leave set and be like, sorry guys, I gotta go. Got a taxi back, and my wife gave birth in the bath at home, in like 20 minutes of me being home. And then the next night I went back and did the live show again. So it was like I was straight back in. And so that was quite hard. Like, it was a really busy time. And then the same with Willow, actually. When Willow was born, literally, I remember it so vividly. that was a hospital birth, and it was a challenging birth. We sort of came back through the front door, and I remember my daughter Ivy was meeting Willow for the first time, and that was kind of magic. And then I got a call from my agent. I was like, he knows I'm just had a baby. What's going on? And he was like, just so you know, you've had a show commission. They're doing Beauty and the Geek for Discovery Plus. You're going to start it in like 3 weeks. I was like, okay, cool. It's like a 6 week shoot. So it was just the same thing. And like in the interim years, literally nothing had happened. So it was just incredibly poor timing. And actually when I up until a couple of years ago, I was doing a weekend show on the radio. And I when I didn't have kids, I quite liked that because it meant I could kind of do all my any other business stuff on the weekdays, and then I could go and do the radio on the Saturday and Sunday. But then when you've got a kid, you realise, Saturday and Sunday are quite important, particularly then when they start school, because the first year that I was at school, I was still doing weekends, and it was like, okay, we don't really get to see each other. We've got some time after school. I can do drop off and I can do pick up. We can do stuff in the evenings, but that's all quite formulaic. And then I can do, a bit of time in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday, but we can't go anywhere. We can't really do anything. We can't experience weekend life. So that was quite hard. And actually then getting to move to the Monday to Thursday time slot was a real lifesaver on that front because, I think it would have been really hard to juggle being a dad and doing that weekend show.
Yeah, I love the way you talk about like being a dad, and I think one of the questions that comes up quite a lot is just like work-life balance, and that's because we're all facing that tension of I want to do the best for my family and take the opportunities, but also recognizing that you don't get this chance again, and so that kind of impacts the way that you do all of those things. I saw a tweet from you.
Bad at it.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say I used to be quite bad at it, I think, and as the kids have gotten older, I think I've really gone, oh God, right, this time is finite, and also the more they kind of, both of mine have got pretty well-rounded personalities, and luckily I really like both of them. So it's you actually get so much from them. Like Ivy in particular is one of my best friends. It's like such a joy getting to spend time with her. I find her eternally entertaining, and not in a kind of like, oh, isn't she a cute kid way. Like she actually makes me laugh, and so I would hate to miss that.
I love that. That's amazing. I saw a tweet from you, I think it was in sort of COVID years, that was talking about your dad, and I wondered if you wanted to share a little bit about that, and if that's had any sort of impact on how you see yourself as a dad and how you parent and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so my dad was he's no longer with us. He died by suicide when I was 20, after a really challenging, depressive episode that lasted, probably years, massively impacted by alcohol. And I think as a kid, I didn't realise that he was an alcoholic, but he was definitely an alcoholic, and I sort of only figured that out towards the end of his life and put two and two together. And so as a consequence of that, his behaviour was often unusual, and he was he was a challenging guy to be around sometimes. He was also really fun and funny, and I liked when the kind of the light of attention was shone on us. I really loved it, but I think he had a lot of stuff troubling him, and I think the way that he was dealing with that was with alcohol. Pretty sure he had bipolar, so he would have these sort of manic episodes where his behaviour was kind of quite risky or quite unusual, or just very kind of erratic. And then you would also get the flip side of that, which would be depression, which as a kid I was aware of it happening a couple of times, but like certainly when I left home he was in a really bad way. And he and I had quite a fractious relationship from my teenage years. He sort of behaved in a way that was not okay, and I'd called him out on it, and it had kind of caused a bit of a rift, which he, I don't think, had the inner strength to kind of come and repair. So I sort of had to go and do that when I was maybe 18. I was like, right, I'm going to have to go and have a chat with him. And we kind of papered over the cracks, but never fully, like, I think we reconciled to a degree, but never fully where I was like, okay, we're cool. And then he died. So I was like, oh God, that came with its own level of anger and, a bit of hatred probably, and just a desire to kind of distance myself from him and that event and just kind of go on and live my life. And then it wasn't really until, God, maybe like 10 years later, and it was around COVID that I was just feeling increasingly anxious. And I'd had a couple of episodes of feeling depressed myself. The first few, I sort of didn't really recognise them as depression. But then there were a couple where I was like, man, this sucks. This can't be right. And I went to sort of see a therapist. And, the first question they ask you in therapy is, tell us about your family. Tell us about your family history. And I'm like, well, got a sister. She's 2 years older. Get on really well. Got my mum. She lives down the road from me. My dad killed himself when I was 20, but I'm fine about that. And they obviously are like, oh, hang on, that sounds hard. And I was like, no, it was fine. And then immediately you're like, the floodgates open. And you realise, oh, actually, I'm not fine. There's quite a lot of trauma wrapped up there, which I was fortunate enough to be able to kind of process. And that was really helpful in terms of kind of shedding quite a lot of anger. I think I had just at the world, a lot of sense of rejection from my dad, and just sort of trying to show a bit of kindness to the younger version of myself that maybe I wasn't shown at the time. And I think so in terms of how that then affects my parenting, I think the first thing is I don't drink, and I never have done. And I made that decision before I kind of consciously was aware that my dad was an alcoholic. But I think there must have been some part of me that was like, oh, I don't like what that thing does to people. So I've never drunk, and I think that's probably the best. I imagine if I did drink, I might end up the same way. I think I've got, ADHD, the kind of quest for dopamine is strong in me, and I think it's ideal that I've not gone down that path. So part of it is like my dad was very good at making jokes and bringing us into the jokes, and humor had sort of a high currency value in our dynamic, and I definitely have that with my kids. Like they love hearing that they're funny, and I love it when they're funny, and I like making them laugh. So a lot of our relationship is reminiscent to me of the kind of the positive side of my dad. And then in terms of the other side of it, I remember in my teenage years with my sister and myself, we both had this sort of fractured relationship with our dad, and for me in particular, like really going through a phase of genuinely not liking him as a person, and very much feeling like he'd prioritized himself over me. And I think part of what that does to you is you go, well, I don't want anyone else to feel that. And actually what I want to do is allow difficult conversations to happen if they need to, and not try and defend things, and to put the interests of my kids above everything else. And really I want them to kind of be able to trust me, and view me as a safe place, and to know that I've kind of always got their back, and that I would put them first in any situation. And I think that probably radiates in a stronger way because of the dynamic that I had with my own dad. And so yeah, I definitely think it has shaped how I parent. I also think it's just a different time that we're in, and we've got access to people saying, would you like to try this slightly gentler style of parenting, or would you maybe like to not diminish your child's feelings all the time? And I think that's probably quite healthy.
Yeah, we had Super Nanny that was just teaching us from when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I do find it that when I became a parent, there was a lot of that, just almost like internal reflection of just looking at how I was brought up. And I love my parents, but then we had a guest on very early on and they said you either parent in the way you were parented or opposite to, and often it's a mixture of the both. And I just find that when I think about my relationship with my daughter, it's always the things of what did I love about my parents, and then what did I wish was slightly there more, and then try. Of course, I'm trying to sort myself out as a human being as well, but it's that always thing of, oh yeah, I've got a good opportunity now. Why don't I try and do my best, without trying to put too much pressure on yourself? All of those things. It's a very common sort of place, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you want to take the good bits and you want to kind of improve upon the bits that weren't so great. But I'm sure that our kids will be like, oh my God, I can't believe that they did X, Y, and Z. And they'll have their own ways of doing things. But I'm trying my absolute best.
That's brilliant, and thank you for sharing that. That was really nice to listen to. I know it's not a nice topic as such, but I think the way that you expressed that was really nice to listen to. So thanks for sharing that, Matt.
Oh, no worries at all. I think it was something that I could not talk about for a very long time. It was just like, boom, that door was sealed shut. And I think going through the process of being able to talk about it and kind of get all of that, the pain associated with it kind of out of me, I sort of feel almost like duty bound to talk about it in a way that isn't like awkward or stigmatized. It's like, so I think so many people, it's amazing actually how many people that you meet that have had a family member or a friend or whatever die of suicide. And it's one of those things that I think, I initially felt some shame around, and then you kind of analyze it and think, well, why would I feel that? And actually, if anyone listening to this has had a similar sort of thing, the greatest thing that we can give as a gift really is a shared experience, and to say like, you're not in this crazy mad world alone. Other people have experienced the same thing. So yeah, I feel like it's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So bringing things forward to today, you've recently launched a podcast with Mollie called Novel Idea. Now, I've listened to, we talked about this before, I'm on episode 3. I find it really funny. It's got me giggling. Tell the listeners, what is it? What's it about? What's the premise? Where did it come from? All that sort of stuff.
So it's called Novel Idea, and it is a sort of a weird experiment. So obviously, Mollie and I do the radio together, but genuinely we are best friends, and any excuse to spend more time doing silly stuff together, we're well up for. And I kept pitching her podcast ideas, and she kept rejecting them because they weren't very good. And then one day I pitched her this, and she was like, "That's the one, but I don't know if it will work." And I was like, "Let's try and see." And so the experiment is, can two people write one book? And the way that we're doing that is by flip-flopping who writes the next chapter. So I would write the first chapter. Just so happens we're writing a murder mystery, so I'm setting up a crime. But then at the end of my chapter, I hand all of it over to her, the characters, the plot, the direction of the story, and she picks up where I left off, or actually in her case, ignores all of it. And then she gets to write her own chapter, introduce new characters. But we're building towards a conclusion where, just because of the way that the chapters are divided out, she's going to have to solve the crime, which is annoying because I know who did it, but I can't say. So she's going to do that. So yeah, it's we have a week between recordings, and we go off and we write our chapter, and then we get together with our friend Stefan, who, I mean, he's worth listening to the podcast alone for. He's got the most beautiful voice you've ever heard. And he reads the novel. He reads it for the first time. It's the first time he's seeing it. He reads it out, and as he reads it, Mollie and I try and constructively criticise, but normally just end up criticising. We tear each other's work to shreds, and we get kind of genuinely quite incensed by the direction the other person's taken it in, or things that they've done with the characters, which, you know, end up being canon in the world because they're part of the book. So, you know, there'll be it's the stuff I'm laying little breadcrumbs of, I'm going to come back to that later, and she'll just, you know, lob a grenade at that. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that now. And vice versa. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of back and forth tussle, but for the first few episodes, we're on very different pages and we have very different objectives, and that wasn't a thing that we planned to do. That was it's just a reflection of who we both are. But as the series progresses, our stories are having to converge. The most recent chapter that's just gone out, Mollie's had to write about a character, my character, Ian Chalk. He's a detective. She has to write about him for the first time properly because I've killed everyone else off. So he's the sort of sole remaining character that she has to now take up and do stuff with. And yeah, she's left me with an astonishing cliffhanger at the end of her chapter, which leads to chapter. I mean, whenever you're listening to this, chapter 7 is like the absolute peak of anything I will ever do. It's my favourite thing I've ever been involved in. Of all the stupid jobs I mentioned before, chapter 7 of Novel Idea is the thing that I would like etched onto my tombstone, a QR code that just leads people there. It's my finest hour. So, you know, if you only want to listen up to chapter 7, fine, but get there because it's a triumph.
That is your Breaking Bad.
It really is. Yeah, it's if I do say so myself, amazing.
So I love it. So we're not giving any spoilers away here. So it's a murder mystery.
Yes.
There's a chap called Augustus Smythe.
Yes.
Who has had an unfortunate accident with a paper shredder.
Was it an accident? Yeah.
Well, exactly. And Ian Chalk is the lead investigator. So a very, very important character. This is in chapter 1. Mollie then takes chapter 2 and does not mention him once.
Doesn't mention
and you
Ian
are there
at all.
Fuming, legitimately fuming at her about this, all on the episode, and this all goes out. So it's the gift that keeps on giving it, because you've got the story, but then you've got your real world story with Mollie happening at the same time, and then you've got Stefan, who's my mum is Welsh. She does not have the same accent as Stefan. He's too Welsh, if anything. And then he's trying to read Welsh. these French accents that Mollie set up, and the whole thing is just, you've got the story, but then you've got the reality. I think it's really entertaining. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, thanks so much. It's it's been a joy. I mean, for me, it's like I get to experience 50% of the joy of this podcast because I am listening to Mollie's chapter for the first time and getting to burn it to the ground or try to. We didn't realise that Stefan can't do voices until he tried to do French. And then we're like, there's many more to come in future chapters. It's like, I wasn't going to write an American character, but I sure as hell am now, because he's got to find the accent from somewhere. And yeah, some of the voices that he comes up with are fantastic. There's a in chapter 7, actually, there's a funeral, and he voices someone's aunt, and he wastes one of the best voices he does of the whole series on this character that only features once. He was, when he realised that she wasn't coming back, he was quite annoyed, because he's like, "Oh, that was one of the only voices I can do." So yeah, I mean, the whole thing is a joy, and we haven't finished. I've written the penultimate chapter, so I've laid everything out for Mollie to hopefully knock them down, but she hasn't yet written the final chapter. So I don't know how the book ends, and I'm genuinely concerned.
I love that. So that's a novel.
It's called Novel Idea.
A novel idea. And where can people listen to that? Everywhere that you listen to podcasts?
Oh, God, wherever you get podcasts, yeah.
Amazing. Oh, Matt, you've been such a great guest. Thank you so much. I could talk to you about films and things for so long, but we are all parents, and there's an early morning facing me tomorrow. Same, yeah. And we're recording this in the Easter holidays. Yes,
so
that was
although your 5-year-old will be at school, yeah. So you'll be on Easter break. Yeah, it's there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it definitely will be tomorrow will be the early morning as well that she decides to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, Matt, thank you so much. It's been
no worries.
delight.
Thank you, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Podcast.